I'm pretty old-fashioned about what we should do with education. It's pretty clear in the Constitution, and now we have seen the results. I see no purpose to have the Department of Education. We ought to save the money. I know that everything has to be cut, and I'm willing to cut everything, but I think it's a mistake politically and morally as well to say that the very first thing we cut, because we've gotten people so dependent, would be the medical care for the elderly or for the children. We don't have to start there. We can start with the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, and the militarism where we're spending hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. Based on a very basic principle, and that is the principle of liberty. Liberty is what we want to deliver to our children. We don't have to deliver them a guaranteed perfect economic life. But if we give them a society and provide for them the amount of freedom that we have had so far, and we've had the amount of prosperity, but if we can deliver to our children a sound monetary system, free markets, property rights, we won't have to worry about them. They will take care of themselves. It's the dependency that is so bad. Oh, the government will take care of me from cradle to grave, and they're going to make us safe because they're going to have TSA agents to make sure our airplane never goes down. And that's how they're going to make us safe. So there's so much that we can do, and so much help if we believe in understanding the principles of liberty. Our liberties do not come from our government. Our liberties obviously come in a very natural and God-given way. And we should have our right to our life. We should have, therefore, a right to all our liberties. And the consequence would be that you have a right to keep what you earn and work for. Are very difficult and very big, and we're going to go through some rough times. If we do the right things, it won't be that difficult. But we have to get more people to understand how the market works and why these things are important, why the foreign policy is important, and why deficits are bad. If that is the case, and this is where I get the encouragement. So many people like you are very interested, and so many college campuses are coming alive. So there's reason for us to be optimistic, and we can win this. Going to a system that is based on our Constitution and these liberties is much easier for us than other countries. Other countries have not had our tradition, so at least we can say that we understood at one time what property rights were, and that voluntary contracts were all about, and low taxes, and all these things that can make us a free and prosperous country. And yet, we still have to overcome this lack of confidence in freedom, because you will be accused, and you've probably already been accused, that you don't care about people. You're not a humanitarian. You would dump the people in the streets and all that. But what is happening today, the system that we've had, and if you have runaway inflation, everybody's going to be dumped in the streets except for a few people who are going to run the show. So therefore, there are high stakes here for us to be involved and engaged. So I want to thank you, very much for coming out, and I hope you can help, and I hope you'll participate in the Ames straw vote. And I am very pleased to be with you. Thank you very much. We are on a fairly tight schedule. We will be here for a bit, and then we fly again and land again and have another little meet and greet. And I want to have time for some questions, and then hopefully get to say hello to as many people as I can. So I will try to be fair and orderly, but let's start right over here.
How do you feel about flat tax or fair tax?
How do I feel about flat tax or fair tax? Well, of course, my flattest and fairest tax is I get rid of the IRS. I haven't signed on to either the fair tax or the flat tax. Anything that came to the floor that would undermine the IRS and lower taxes, I'd be voting for. But it's really the secondary issue. The real issue is what I was talking about. What should the role of government be? Should the role of government be running a welfare state? Should it be running our lives? And should we be policing the world? When you reject that, the taxation, probably no matter which way they collected, if it was about this big, we wouldn't be needing to have our revolution. But unfortunately, too many people have allowed the role of government to go out of hand, so taxation becomes the symptom. So we have to address the subject of what should the proper role of government be, and then get rid of the income tax. And at the beginning of our history, they had not a punitive tariff, but they did have a tariff and some excise taxes. And in comparison to what we have today, those taxes would be incidental. In the back.
Energy issues are very important to me. How do you stand on cap and trade and also the ethanol subsidies?
Okay, I'm against cap and trade, obviously. That's a cap and tax trade, and and then they want to reward. They're actually be able to sell permits to inflate. The whole process is wrong. If you want to deal with environmental things and energy, it's dealt with on a free market. You have a right to use your property, right to drill and do whatever, but you don't have a right to hurt your neighbor's property. You're not going to have a right to pollute anybody's air, or anybody's water, or anybody's land. But you have a right to your own land and to produce, and free markets would handle this. So that leads into the questions about ethanol. You know, that argument is so messed up in Washington because tax credits are not subsidies. If I give you back your money and you get to keep some of your tax money, that is not a subsidy. So I'm for as many, under the circumstances, I vote for all tax credits. But what's wrong with the ethanol tax credit, it only goes to one item, corn. You know, and that happens to help Iowa a whole lot. Well, if you want to market, you want to have tax credits for everything. Actually, Brazil gets more ethanol out of sugarcane, but they don't get the same benefit. So some of the people who get annoyed with these tax benefits or tax credits, we got to get rid of it, rid of this tax benefit for the farmers. You don't want to. You want to give it to everybody, you know, equally. And yet the tariffs, the punitive tariff on imported ethanol, I wouldn't do that. The consumers to be protected in the free market, so you want to get rid of those tariffs. And you also don't want to have mandates. The government shouldn't tell us that you need 8%, 12%, or 15%. The market's supposed to determine that. So, and there's another little item that I like to bring up, and some people don't understand it, but one very, very good source of ethanol is from hemp. So why don't we legalize the growth of hemp? For energy, the bureaucrats that I've met and the politicians that I know are not capable of deciding where the best source of energy comes from. Only the market didn't do that, and prices can do that. So right now the market has helped us out on natural gas. Natural gas prices are going down because they've learned how to capture more gas. And that's what should happen, and it would. And the market could sort out nuclear energy. And you know, in spite of the problems that nuclear energy faces, less people died with nuclear energy than anything else. But it's still very dangerous, but it also gets subsidies. It gets the insurance and deals with the waste. And if the market handles it and you measure it by safety and protection of the environment through property laws, the consumer will tell you which is the best source of energy. I happen to think if we did get, say, run out or get too dependent on foreigners for imported petroleum, maybe we'd have more electric cars, and they could be used in the cities. There's all kinds of other options that are available, but the fact that we had a Department of Energy that would supposed to manage energy, it hasn't done a very good job. Okay, over here.
What is your solution, Congressman, for creating jobs?
For which one?
Creating jobs.
Creating jobs. Create a free market environment. And you will have the jobs. But specifically, I would change the tax code because of my attack on the Fed. I don't want the Fed just buying debt for the reasons I said. But Others say, well, they have to create the credit. Nobody saves any money, so where are the people going to get the money? So the Fed creates it, but that's a distortion. So I don't want them to do that. If they don't print the money and have the capital available, where would the capital come from? We'll change our tax code. Our big corporations, you know, have subsidiaries around the world, and they pass all the profits around the world because the taxes are lower, and they pay them. But they're sitting on over $1 trillion. And they would bring it home, but they're going to get taxed again at 40%. So why bring it home? So we need to just get rid of that tax, tell them to come back and bring it back here, and that would produce the capital. That wouldn't be enough. You still have to make sure corporate taxes get a lot lower. There is no such thing as corporate taxes. Corporate taxes are a sales tax because they don't stay in business unless they pass that on to us as the consumer. So we should get that as low as possible. We have to not pile on more regulations. In the Depression, piled on regulations. They had Sarbanes-Oxley. Now they have the Frank Bill and financial. Every time we have a crisis, they say, oh, it must have been because we didn't have enough regulation. We need to do it. I've said one thing, that if I am to be president, I'm going to be the first president that ever shrunk the size of the Federal Register and not expand it. That's a big
What are your plans for Social Security with that new conversation?
What are the plans for Social Security? Well, there's no money there. We know that. I think the one thing that we should offer is at least the people that are coming into the workforce right now the opportunity to opt out. You know, everybody likes opting out of Obamacare or one segment, but there's so many other things we should be opting out. But I think young people ought to have the right to opt out and say, I'm going to take care of myself. You don't have to take care of me. I'm not going to depend on you. It would be a safe bet since they're, you know, it's bankrupt. So I'd let them opt out. And then you can say, well, how in thunder are you going to take care of the elderly? See, the elderly are dependent. That money has been spent. But one thing I can say is over the many years I've been in Congress, I never spent 1 penny of the Social Security fund because I never voted for any of the appropriations bills. They were always too big. So I did more to protect that than anybody else. And also I had a bill in that would say that you can't use any of that money, you know, prohibit the government from using Social Security money in the general, put it in the General Revenue Fund. But that still doesn't answer the entire question. One thing that I could do to help the elderly is a monetary issue, is that deregulate interest rates. So those who know that Social Security is running out and they are saving, they have money in the bank, and they make 1 or 2%. Well, if you had market rates, you'd make 6 or 7%. So the banks get the money for free, and then they loan it out to different entities, government sometimes, and they're making all the money. But the other thing on Social Security, I try to work our way out, and I touched on that before, on where I would cut to allow the people, you know, if they're 60, 70, 80 years old and they're dependent, that's the last thing in the world that we should be, you know, working on at this moment. But if we have runaway inflation, everybody suffers and the checks will buy nothing, and that's what we're moving into. So it is important. So that's why I pick and choose. I have priorities. If nobody will listen to the priorities, then we should cut the budget across the board. Everybody gets cut 10%, just to say this is important. But if we had the priorities, we cut this militarism and we cut these departments, and then eventually you have to change some rules. You know, as far as what are we going to do with the people that are 30, 40, and 50? The young people, we'd let them get out. Besides, there are not enough young people coming into the workforce to pay for all this. But it is a big deal, and because we're moving into the inflation, actually it's going to be beyond legislative control because there will be a reduction in real value. But if you worked on priorities and we got the economy going, things could be worked out. But I have to tell you, I'm not all that optimistic about it. I'm sort of betting that if we don't, you know, get these changes done, that we're going to move to a very, very bad situation where the inflation is going to eat us up.
Congressman, want to know what your thoughts on illegal immigration, and this spells it out pretty good, no amnesty, and I fully agree with that, and get them out of here.